Hi, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hume, and I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. And we're so excited to have our amazing guests, Yusuf Miller, Sonia Robinson, Sister Maria Mohammed, and Jackie Clark. These people have made such a difference in our community and the world, and I'm so absolutely honored to have them here. Also with us, we have our fantastic youth board members, and I'm so proud of them. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we are excited to bring you our best. So we'll be starting with Hannah. So Hannah, if you could start, that'd be great.
Hi, I am Hannah, CleanEarthWithKids.org. I work on Team 2, Protecting Wildlife and Public Lands, and Team 3, Clean Air and No Idling. Clean air is important to me. Everyone needs clean air to breathe. In San Diego County, California, we have polluted air. In fact, the American Lung Association State of the Air Report 2020 gives San Diego an F in ozone and a D in particulate matter. In many parts of the US and the world, the air is too polluted for us to breathe safely. We need laws to stop corporate polluters from dumping pollution and toxic chemicals into our air and water. We attend meetings, write letters, and work for a change. We have important federal, state, and local regulations we need to support to help protect people's health. We have a tab on our website called Actions You Can Take to Comments and Petitions. Did you know that the World Health Organization considers air pollution a major public health emergency? If you live in areas with high levels of air pollution, does COVID-19 impact you differently? The World Health Organization considers air pollution a major public health emergency. Did you know that the US air standards are not keeping us safe? We need the World Health Organization guidelines. Over 7 million premature deaths every single year are associated with exposure to air pollution. Nine out of every 10 people around the world are being polluted with air. Exposure to air pollution is responsible for chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, lung cancer, and pneumonia. Toxic particles get into our lungs and from there into our bloodstreams and will reach our cardiovascular system and then be responsible for heart diseases, neurological disorders, for stroke, general and reproductive system issues. And those are some of the reasons that air pollution is one of the biggest health issues we are confronting today. And I would like to introduce Naeem talking about third-hand smoke.
Hello, my name is Naeem Miller with Clean Earth for Kids. Air pollution and third-hand smoke ruins our air. The one thing that keeps us alive. With air pollution, it would be very difficult for people to enjoy life without having a clean air for them to function. And with air pollution, people with asthma or people with allergies, they can have a really hard time of functioning throughout the day. 7 in 10 Black children are exposed to secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke can cause things like asthma attacks, lung problems, ear infection, cancer, SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. There are almost 70 chemicals in secondhand smoke that cause cancer. Third-hand smoke comes from smokers' hands. There is no safe level of secondhand smoke. It can travel through doorways, cracks in walls, electrical lines, and plumbing. The toxic chemicals in secondhand smoke stay in the air regardless of air cleaning. And there is third-hand smoke. That is the toxic residue from smoking that is left on surfaces, even on dust. It's also on the clothes, hairs, and skins of smokers. Studies show hand washing drops the toxic toxin levels on the hands, but they are back 40 to 60 minutes later. So even if someone who doesn't smoke around their kids, they are still exposing them to toxic chemicals that can interfere with brain development, causing things like ADHD. Third-hand smoke can also cause liver diseases, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. It can also make asthma worse. Secondhand cigarette smoke is classified as a toxic air contaminant and is especially dangerous for kids or children, pregnant women, the elderly, and those with chronic illnesses. Sick and premature babies in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. When babies are born early, have health problems, or difficult birth, they go to the hospitals and NICU. That was like Anna T.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Anna T. I'm a filmmaker with Clean Earth for Kids, and I'm going to be talking about MATS. So right now, the EPA is trying to restore a regulation called MATS, Mercury and Air Toxic Standards, and it saved over 1,200 people's lives and slashed mercury by 80% for about a decade. But the Trump administration took MATS regulation away. So now we really need to do more than just reinstate the old MATS regulation. And there is no safe level of mercury or lead exposure for children's brains. So we must insist that other toxic chemicals and pollution will also be stopped. To do this, we must stop coal-fired power plants completely and make stronger laws to keep mercury and toxic chemicals out of air, water, soil, and food. And we cannot continue to support corporate polluters that harm children and families. So over 65% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant, which shows us that this is a racial justice issue, a social justice issue, an environmental issue, and public health and educational issue. To protect fetal and infant brains and reduce cancer, lung disease, and other serious health harms, we must continue to work for change. I'll also be talking about our no idling contest. It's a way to keep air clean around school campuses. One of the ways we can do this is through no idling signs. We have a no idling contest for K through 12 students and community members. And we're putting up no idling signs around cities, universities, and school districts. We would like people to make no idling signs to remind people to turn off their engines when they're parked, and cities allow us to hang the metal signs. We would also like cities to add no idling policy to their climate action plan. On our Team 3 page, we have no idling for resource packets for schools and businesses. Our friend Hannah wrote a no idling essay about reasons why we should turn off our cars. One of the biggest reasons is that car exhaust is too toxic and air pollution is harmful to people, and not only people, but bees, insects, birds, animals that pollinate our plants, our crops. And it is the job of the school districts and cities to create and pass policies that protect children's health. Can pass it on to Hannah or talk about Team 6. I can talk a little bit more about this too. So tonight is an important part of Black History Month. We are excited to have our special guests to talk about pollution in African American communities and the things that they're doing to make a difference. So at Clean Earth for Kids, we have 6 different teams. Social, racial, climate, and environmental justice are foundational to all 6 of those teams and everything that we do. So you're welcome to check out our website, cleanearthforkids.org, and learn about our 6 teams and our action plan. It's right on the home. I can talk a little bit about our action plan as well. So our action plan includes setting a 100% renewable energy goal and create climate action plan, planting trees in organic gardens, and making sure that all kids and communities have access to parks and green spaces and trees in their neighborhood. It's really important, and our action plan is all about protecting clean air and water. Our We are also supporting zero emission vehicles and public transportation options like trains, buses that are easy to get to, and having bike lanes so kids and people can safely get where they need to go without driving their cars. Our action plan also includes healthy soils without pesticides. So healthy soils absorb carbon and must be a part of every action plan. We must also stop our dependence on plastics to protect our air, water, and land. The making, using, and recycling plastics results in air and water pollution. So we are excited to hear all about your ideas for a safer, healthier, and better world. One of the projects that we've been working on at Clean Earth for Kids, and something I've been focusing on, is Pacpa, Protect America's Children from Toxic Pesticides Act. It was introduced back in 2020 by Jonah Goose and Tom Udall, but it was reintroduced by Senator Cory Booker recently. And this is something that we're really pushing for here at Clean Earth for Kids. It would protect so many people, and it has a specific focus on children because children are specifically vulnerable to the effects of toxic pesticides. It's something that I'm really interested in, and something that I find to be really important for me, just thinking about how they are susceptible to those toxic pesticides. And this would ban those dangerous pesticides, including organophosphate insecticides, neonicotinoids, and paraquat herbicides. It would also protect farm workers. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, we have connections to those farm workers, and we hear a lot from often. It would help protect them further, as we know they are also very vulnerable to the effects of pesticides, dealing with them directly. It would also close loopholes that have allowed the EPA to issue emergency exemptions. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why this really needs to be passed, and we have been reaching out to local representatives. We've been creating videos on it. We've been doing other art projects to really push for this passage. So that's something that we want to make people more aware about, and is a really big step forward in terms of protecting children, farm workers, and just so many people across the country. So this is something that I'm still learning about. I'm in no way an expert, but this has been something that we've been looking into, the exposure of pesticides and the connection that has to lupus, SLE, which is systemic lupus erythematosus. So in this study, we identified, or the results of this study identified 93 lupus subjects and 170 controls with similar baseline characteristics. So about 83% were African American. The pesticide exposure was associated with lupus. After controlling for potential co-founders, the basic conclusion was residential exposure to pesticides in an urban population of predominantly African American women was associated with the increased lupus risk. And this study was taken in Boston, I believe. So that just goes to show that looking at urban areas compared to rural as well just shows the kind of staggering effects and impacts of this.
For sure. And we have to give a shout out to the Black Institute and the important work of the Black Institute that's been going on with pesticides. They have published studies, and the work that's going on there is outstanding. Also beyond pesticides, Pesticide Action Network, showing about the dangers of pesticides in urban areas and in rural areas as well. Naeem, would you like to say something about your work and what you're trying to do with pesticides?
Yes, what we're currently trying to do is have is we're speaking out against these uses of pesticides that are being used around um, like the county. And what we're doing is, for one, we're going to make signs. We're going to do contests. We're going to overall like spread the word around just other schools and other parks, like to make signs to make sure not to use pesticides, since there are children who play around these areas.
Like we mentioned earlier, super excited to have our guests here with us tonight. First up, I believe we're going to hear from Sister Maria. If you could just introduce yourself, talk about your organization, why you started it, why it's important to you, and maybe a little bit on what you hope to achieve.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Clean Earth for Kids, Clean Air for Kids. It's a beautiful organization, and I'm so happy that you all thought of me to be here to share today. So thank you, Suzanne, for your invite. I am Sister Maria Muhammad. I am the CEO of I Am Green. We are a local nonprofit organization here in San Diego whose sole purpose is to reconnect our people back to the planet and each other. I have been doing this work for a very, very long time, probably since I was your age, Anna, for a very, very long time. In one way or another, we started off in food justice, and then we moved to entrepreneurship camp for children that live in an urban area to reconnect them to farms and nature and take them camping and things like that. And we started them with the food co-op to teach them how to get their own food and provide it to their community. And we did that in Baltimore. I'm originally from Baltimore. I started off in Los Angeles, Baltimore, and now I'm in San Diego. I'm doing much of the same. It's very important for us. I am an asthmatic. My brother and my father are both asthmatics as well. And it has gotten progressively worse. When I was coming up, to have asthma you were an outlier. You know, it wasn't all the children. It was just some children had asthma. And now as we look, just about everybody, children and adults alike, are being diagnosed with asthma, which goes to show, which leads back to our air and what we are exposed to in certain communities. And so it's very important for I Am Green to work with educating our community about why we have disproportionate amounts of asthma, why we are in neighborhoods that are disproportionately impacted by environmental harms, and what we can do about it. And so one of the things that we do is Clean Air Day every single year. And we have participated in Clean Air Day for the last 3 years here in San Diego. And we work with introducing our community to electric vehicles because there are a lot of rebates and incentives for our community to get involved with electric vehicles, but there are not a lot of electric vehicles. And so people are very hesitant to adopt things that they're just not used to seeing. And so because of that, we've done EV charge across towns where people can come out, get in the EVs, drive them, test drive, ask questions, and just become familiar. So we do a bunch of EV tailgating. And just recently, we started I Am Green Go, which is a EV car sharing program for communities that have been historically underserved. And so community members are able to get their cars, borrow the EVs for 3 hours a day, up to 9 hours a week, so that they can go to appointments, so that they can go to the movies, do whatever it is that they choose to do in those 3 hours, and return the car. It's for another neighbor or another community member to use them. We have a micro fleet, and we are partnering with multi-dwelling units because it's very hard to have an electric vehicle if you're living in an apartment building because they don't have the infrastructure. So we're starting there We're partnering with community-based organizations so that their clients can have access. They need to, see their children or go to the doctors and different things like that. And then we also are working with a community-based organization who brings food and delivers food to people who are unable to get out, that are sick and don't have access to whole, clean foods. And so those are some of the things that we're doing, as well as eco stewardship education, to help our community be informed, because it's hard to make decisions. You have a lot of initiatives going on and a lot of bills being passed, and that our community simply are so inundated with food, clothing, and shelter and surviving that it's hard to get to the thriving part of living. And so when we educate them and they become aware that we're most impacted, so that they can get involved and make informed decisions, participatory budget processing, so they can say where the funds are prioritized in their community from projects that they have chosen because they have become educated and are aware. And it's for everybody, not just for people who are in school, have gone to college, but everyday people who all breathe air. So again, thank you so much for having me here. I know that's a lot, but thank you so much for having me here. And I look forward to all the questions and whatever you all need of me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I loved it. Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. You are just a champion. So it's so amazing and overwhelming as well. You're just such a champion for the community, and we're so proud of your work and of you. And I know you also have the climate ambassadors. Would you like to say a word about the climate ambassadors?
The Climate Ambassadors is actually a San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition program. And the coalition, most organizations from our community are part of that coalition. And so what I Am Green did for the Climate Ambassadors is actually make the curriculum. And so my husband, who is my partner and co-founder of I Am Green, is the environmental literacy teacher. He's the instructor. And so he created a curriculum to coincide with the city's climate action plan, because a lot of our community members just don't know what the climate action plan is all about. And so what he did is that he developed a curriculum that go along with the climate action plan, that educates community members about the climate action plan and what the goals are for our city and how we can reach our goals. And so climate ambassadors would come to San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition, and we would teach and train them through the Climate Ambassador program. And then they will become certified climate ambassadors and will be able to go out and start different projects and do different things around the community that supports the city's climate action plan.
It's just so amazing. And I've had the privilege to speaking to these amazing climate ambassadors and seeing you in action. Recently, you passed the important Environmental Day for San Diego County. Do you want to talk about how did that feel and what were you thinking when this passed? I'm so proud.
Yeah, it was an undertaking. Sister Jackie and myself are part of a fellowship. Sister Jackie is the NAACP Environmental Justice Chair, and we work closely in the community to bring about, a change, a sustainable change, systemic change. And so we are working toward a goal of participatory budgeting and having our community choose the projects and say where the climate equity fund should be spent, not just in infrastructure, not just in sidewalks, but human infrastructure. The same way that our communities have been neglected, the people who actually live in them have been neglected as well. And so we want to get those people back in the process of civic duty, back in the process of what it looks like to see something, know it's wrong, and be able to tell the city that it's wrong and say, hey, this is the solution, how we can fix it, and please fund this, because that's the only way that it's going to happen. So Sister Jackie and myself have been, in another Sister Michelle Carney, who's she's the climate ambassador, just have been working with the city council for environmental justice and climate equity day. And this day would have people go out and actually, it's a day of action with the churches, with the mosques, with the synagogues, the temples, with the businesses, with the schools, with everyday people, to all decide what are we going to do on this day so that we can make a universal change locally, always thinking globally, but acting locally. So, yeah. And Sister Jackie may want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and yes, and on that, I'd love for Jackie, if you could share Ms. Jackie Clark, the chair of the Environmental Climate Committee for NAACP, and working, county employee. I know you're not here on behalf of that, but on many boards and all the work that you do. If you could talk about what's important to you, why is this work important to you, and what you would like to share, I'd love to do that. When we spoke last time, Brian Bonner of NAACP said, wow, we have to have this conversation on tape. So I know we won't have the time that we had the other night, but it's just so lovely to hear from you, and it's very inspirational. So if you'd like to share, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. And I echo what Sister Maria said of thanking you for having this forum. And thank you to the young people who are on here articulating their thoughts and ideas and knowledge about this very important topic. So I am the Environmental and Climate Justice Chair for the local NAACP in San Diego, but I've been working for the last 11, maybe 15 years, because I lost track. I've been with the county for 19 years. But what I just realized is I've been in public health. And in public health, I've worked in maternal, child, and family health services. And the program that I ran was Child Health Disabilities Treatment Reimbursement Program. And these were to treat children who had no medical coverage, but they suffered medical disabilities. And in order to prevent further disability to the child, we partnered with providers of medical and dental providers in the community so that they could provide services to these children that were under the age of 18. So then moving fast forward, being in public health, I became exposed to data that talked about health disparities, that talked about threats to public health, that talked about disease and the spread of disease and the pandemics and all of these types of things, not realizing that one day, by the persistent urging of Sister Maria, that I would become a climate ambassador and be able to utilize that knowledge that I had gained all these previous years to benefit and to tie in all of the information and disparities that are related to environmental injustices. And so I did become a climate ambassador through I Am Green, who facilitated the classes when I was going through the San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition. It was the most amazing time because, again, we're tying in things that we don't realize, that we're being climate ambassadors, we're being good stewards of the earth by recycling. When she talked about in the class about simple thing about recycling grease that you put in a canister on the stove and you reuse it. And other ways of water conserving. We used to have to turn the lights off, quit running the water. You don't pay the water bill here. So we conserved by force, but we didn't know that we were contributing to a greater cause. So now here as the chair for the NAACP, learning more about the political and historical impacts of these environmental injustices, which brings us to tonight's topic of air pollution, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, but how all of these things tie in. And everywhere in every aspect of America and every indicator, African Americans, people of color are impacted greater than other people in the community. So my passion and my desire and why I'm in it is to bring awareness, because as educated, as well trained as I have been and exposed to these conversations, a lot of people are not. They have no idea that when Suzanne, who passionately talks about particulate matter, they have no idea what she's talking about. They were like, oh, but you know, Suzanne, that must not apply to me. So for me, it's my main goal is awareness. I don't have to be the smartest bulb or the brightest bulb in the pack, because there are other experts out here who can speak this and run circles around what I can say. So I can bring all of them together and they can talk about it and speak to it, but also make sure that the people, that the audience that they're trying to reach has a clear understanding of what they're saying. So that's my passion. That's why I'm involved, and that's why I'm ever learning. And I know, Suzanne, you give up a lot of your free time reading and attending meetings that no one else attends, and you're doing and going above and beyond, and you're making the sacrifice and the commitment to this. And I'm doing that more and more every day, even working a 9 to 5. It is very challenging trying to keep up. I get emails from all types of sources. Please attend this meeting. Please come here. Did you know about this? It was very pleasant tonight to hear the young people speak on this in this forum. And that's what I'd like to see more of, is that from your organization all across the county, more and more people, young people, especially, the future is theirs. When we leave this earth, we hope we leave it in better condition, but we also hope to leave it with well-educated, prepared students and stewards of the earth, so that they'll be able to carry on the work and the great work that has already begun. So I will end there as to, because I'm not sure where we're going later, but I do have some other things that I'd like to add. And as far as the Environmental Justice and Climate Equity Day, that was part of awareness and community engagement and accountability. It's not just on them. It's not a them versus us anymore. It's 2022. We know now. Your students just read off a whole lot of data. They told us a whole lot of percentages of who's greatly impacted. We know these things, so now we have to hold ourselves accountable to do our part, but also keep the feet to the fire of those who are in those political positions and able to make a greater impact by the swipe of a pen. So, but I'll end there for now. And thank you so much again for having me.
So incredible and so amazing. Thank you so much. It's so inspirational. Sonia Robinson, I feel like it's a great place to talk about the work that you're doing and build off the previous speakers. You're working to protect our communities. You've done work obviously with NAACP and so much important work to reduce pollution. And so you're on the forefront and you've got some solutions, right? And you know the deal. And you're putting this in action. At the state level, I was so happy to work with NAACP on the minimum bill and on the important work, the things that you're doing to protect children, families, and our environment. So if you could talk about what you're doing and how what you're doing is going to reduce our air and water pollution, is going to give us climate justice. Sister Maria talked about that with the EVs, charging and all of the important stuff. And just like Jackie talked about as well, the education and all of this. So if you could talk about what you've been working on, that would be really great. So this is Sonia Robinson.
Thank you so much, Susan. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for Clean Earth for Kids. One of the most elating and educational show I had on Sun, Sustainable Urban Network, when you guys were our guest. And also, as you mentioned, thank you for the support you also provided. I'm honored to be, here in the county. I was the first chair for the Environmental Climate Justice Committee for the NAACP San Diego, as well as the North San Diego County. And so it's definitely a privilege for the things and the work that we were able to accomplish in moving the needle forward. So I think everybody on this call knows that race is the #1 indicator where toxins are located. And this is the topic I believe that we're going to be discussing is the pollution in the Black communities. So I have been engaged with this topic over the last few years, but as both Sister Maria and Jackie brought up, as far as when you just kind of reflect on your own life and like the influences and how you was brought up, kind of start shaping you and being a strong community advocate. So at the end of the day, I am a community advocate for justice. And I believe that environmental and climate justice is the intersectionality of racial, social, economic justice, as well as equity. And I also believe that it's a form of a remix, if you will, for our old school social justice march activities and approach. But I also feel like the old traditional is necessary too. And so bringing all of them together is definitely, I'm motivated to do so, right? So as far as some of my background, getting directly engaged on this topic, when we're looking at, green and being conscious and aware in environmental justice issues, I was recruited when I used to work at a global consulting firm. I was recruited by the senior partners to be part of the local green team. And then eventually what happened was I was promoted to be the editor-in-chief of our newsletter that was sent out from that managing city office for all things related to sustainability and green and thus forth. Then you kind of got away, from that awareness, if you will. I used to take my bags, to the store, over, 15 years ago when it wasn't the thing to do, right? And then you kind of get away from it. And then moving back here, so as far as my background, I grew up out here in San Diego County, moved away for, many years, and then moved back as an adult. So got engaged again and started working with the public policy team with San Diego 350. And right now I am actually a board member of San Diego 350, as you mentioned, also working directly with Protect Our Communities Foundation as a program manager and a lead organizer. And so we're a strong focus when we're looking at environmental climate justice is that energy justice, right? And so I think what's really important to understand, as I was mentioning before, is that I definitely believe in our people, and because it's the people that help shape the policy and the policy that we need for those improvements. So I definitely work in that space of public policy. As you mentioned, the minimum bill that was proposed at the California Public Utilities Commission that we successfully as a committee and as a branch with the NAACP, San Diego and the NAACP North San Diego County were successful in getting our elected officials to send a letter to the California Public Utilities Commission to, reject a minimum bill, which SDG&E, as we know, is the highest rates in the country. They surpass Hawaii, right? And so I think in putting things in perspective, when we're talking about environmental climate justice, economic justice matters, right? And so moving back to San Diego, I can't remember what year, I think it was in 2014, San Diego was the second least affordable place to live in the country. And so I'm like, you don't just wake up one day, as far as being any public policy position and scratch your head and say, how do we become the second least affordable place to live in the country? Well, then in 2017, San Diego became the least affordable place to live in the country. And so fast forward, the stats just came out again, and I think it was for 2021. San Diego is now the least affordable place to live in the country. And understanding there's different metrics. There's different metrics with affordability, and there's different metrics when it comes to most expensive. So we know that San Diego's affordability is an issue. And when I understand that San Diego's electricity bill is the highest rate, in the state of California, as well as in the country, well, that's a problem. That's an element that's part of the equation that's causing San Diego to be so unaffordable, right? So and when you mention solutions, so there are solutions, right? And so our residents, our housing is, top number one as far as trying to solve and resolve that. But where God has put me in place is trying to address another major contributor to our affordability, a major contributor to our everyday life, and that is our energy. I'm not sure which one of the ladies mentioned, we don't often think about our electricity, where it comes from. We just want to hit the switch and it comes, and that's for most people. But knowing that our electricity, that there's the dirty electricity actually contributes, like the oil, the gas, the coal. Now, California has probably the least amount of coal production and energy across the country, but yet we still have other fossil fuel burning oils, energy generation that contributes to our pollution, right? But when we know that we can actually harness our electricity from a natural resource that God gave us, which is using solar, rooftop solar, more specifically, and knowing that, having your rooftop solar, now you're able to power your own electricity, and you don't have to depend on, these long transmission and distribution infrastructures that's hundreds of miles away, and in many cases that is causing more pain or more financial hardship on you. So when I look at my bill, I see that my transmission and distribution charges is just as much as the electricity that I use, right? So some of the aspects of my focus has been on trying to implement changes on our electricity sources, and our electricity sources also does contribute to the air, our air quality, right, or the pollution. And so we were successful, as you mentioned, on the minimum bill. We was also successful on a federal level, and with the FERC decision that tried to penalize net energy metering. And so currently, we're also working on right now local, of course, the country's looking at what California is going to do at the California Public Utilities Commission on net energy metering now. So working with Protect Our Communities Foundation, I have been doing a lot of presentations throughout our city and county, and getting a lot of great responses and support for our position in supporting net energy metering. And so that is something that will help bring equity to all of our all of our communities, and allow us to be empowered of how we are powering. So right now, that is still kind of ways in a balance. Our advocacy work here locally, as well as throughout the state, has been very successful in the fact that the California Public Utilities Commission's date to vote was supposed to be January 27th. They punted out to February 10th. They punted out again. Today is actually another voting day for them, and they punted out again. So it is working. I have been successful in meeting with many different of our state legislators, in the county of San Diego on this topic, and also receiving support letters. So they actually signed on to a legislative letter that went to the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as our governor, in support of net metering solar. So we have like another assembly member. He's not really popular, and you may know who this is, in supporting climate and energy issues, Assembly Member Manshine. Well, hopefully we can get him to also sign on to this letter as well. So that is some of the work, not all of the work, but definitely is a relevant area that's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that and all that you're doing. And it's been so fun to work together. And I just really appreciate you and your friendship and support. So thank you. So now Yusuf Miller is a board member of Cleaners for Kids, and so amazing, so amazing. We all know Yusuf as supporting racial justice, social justice, environmental justice, economic justice, and really just being such an amazing advocate for all of us in our communities. So thank you so much. So Yusuf, would you like to talk about your newer position at NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, and what you'd like to achieve, and anything else that you would like to add and why it's important to you?
Thank you for having me. I just really love this program, Clean Earth for Kids, with all the inspiring kids, and then my colleagues on the panel, Sister Maria, Sister Jackie, Sister Sonia, all just putting down powerful information and powerful ways that they've been making a change, not only locally, throughout the state and throughout the nation. So I'm very honored to be on the same panel as them. And as you said earlier, I'm Yusuf Miller. I'm with the North San Diego County NAACP, and the North County NAACP has a separate president and vice presidents, and it's a whole different chapter on its own. And I am the Environmental Climate Justice Chair, the colleague of Sister Jackie Clark in San Diego's NAACP. So we're friends and we're colleagues, and we're working on the same mission to move the NAACP forward in environmental justice and environmental impacts. And why is that important? That is very important on the narrative level. And this is where I like to contribute mostly, is the narrative level. A lot of people, let's say they can, the sisters will be able to attest to this, like say 10, 15 years ago, when people started talking about, and even up to recently, when you talk about environmental justice, you didn't see too many people of color faces. You didn't really see that. And the question was like, why aren't African Americans involved or care about climate justice? Like, we do care about climate justice. We absolutely do. But the problem is that the marketing to people of color was very lacking, if present at all. You can't market to people of color talking about polar bears and to save the polar bear. You can't market to people of color about melting ice caps. We have different dynamics in our everyday struggle, where polar bears and ice caps are not even tertiary. They're quaternary. They're way out there. So we needed to all make sure that we market it in a way that's relative to people of color and their experiences every day. Our African-American family, our Latinx family, our indigenous families, all of them have a different perspective on how this pollution actually targets them, but we have this man-made microcosm of an environment in all of our communities. So when we look at the African-American community, I like to communicate to everyone that our everyday life is with heat index that's way higher than other more influential communities. Our greenery in our communities are way different, yellow and brown compared to other communities. So much so that it's become a commonplace to see environmental mitigators to this problem. We don't understand at the time that it's an environmental man-made condition that makes it so hot in the community. But what do? We open that fire hydrant. We open that fire hydrant and we open it up to the community. They come out and they cool off. It cools off the air. The water in the streets absorbs some of the heat from the concrete. It cools the community down. The city comes out and shuts it off. But this is our way, like Sister Maria was talking about before, recycling oil, and things of this nature that we did, keep the lights off, because our mothers and grandmothers and fathers said this famous phrase that we all know: it's too hot for this mess. It's too hot for it. You do not get on your parents' nerves when it's too hot. And that's what they were talking about, even though they weren't talking about environmental injustice is happening in our community and I can't take it. But this is what they were saying. When we speak to the experience of the African American, knowing that these skin irritations that African Americans have, well, relationship to the pesticides in our communities when they're spraying down our grasses and overspraying our grasses. They can't even grow fresh, coming green. We don't have those things, and we think it's just grass and it's just me. But no, there's an underlying invisible hand that's in there polluting our communities. We think the air, our grandmas and our aunties and our cousins with the asthma and the reactive airway and the breathing problems, that no, that's just me, or that's just my family, or maybe it's in my background. It's in your background only because you are in a man-made situation, that your community is in a bubble of toxicity, a bubble in the air, the land, and the water, a complete, absolute bubble. So when we talk about this environmental climate justice, we have to talk about the microclimates and the micro environments that African Americans, Black, Brown, and Indigenous are forced to live in. These microclimates is what gives people the misunderstanding that everyone is affected the same way in climate justice. It is not. The people of color communities are affected in a more intense way. If the temperature is going to rise in the status quo community 1 degree, it'll rise 3 to 5 to 7 degrees in people of color community. So this language, this narrative needs to put out plain and clear, not only for the African American to make sure that this issue is actually an issue you experience every day, is something relative to you every day, but also for our non-Black folks to understand that environment is not the same and not equal throughout all communities. So it was a hard discussion that we used to have early on in the years, talking about environmental justice. Like, what do you mean? There's only one earth. There was only one sun. There's only one. No, it's not. There are many, and they're all man-made. There are one that is natural. The natural one, there's one. But the man-made communities, which is the injustice and destruction of our community, is many. So this is the kind of language that I try to spread to the community via my chair at the NAACP, and also with Clean Earth for Kids. And I love Clean Earth for Kids for this, especially one particular aspect, is that they are the youth and they get it already. They get it out the gate. We don't have to undo all this generational misunderstandings. They get it right out the gate. They're all for it. They're on board. And as you look at Clean Earth for Kids, for example, the diversity in the youth that are there, and their approach, when you see a Clean Earth for Kids video, you'll see that they're not only talking about people of color, they're talking about everybody, and not only every human, they're talking about the animals that are affected by climate injustice. They're talking about the plants that are affected by environment justice. So this Clean Earth for Kids, they're the new power position. And they're that position that we're going to put in place in these years to come. And we need to make sure that they're well schooled, they're well trained. And I have no doubt for Clean Earth for Kids, because I've been seeing them schooling and training adults. I've seen them schooling and training people who have been in this work for a very long time. So the invitation to lawmakers and policymakers, and then they get this experience on how to change and make laws for when they get into that position. So the work that Sister Maria, that Sister Jackie, and Sister Sonia are doing, empowering these youth to go forward and be that kind of advocate that will make a change so that we can survive this whole thing. Yes, we have these microcosms of environments throughout the US, but when we all go down, we're going to all go down together. It's going to just implode together. So we need to take a global look at, an equitable look at environmental justice, environmental climate, and the NAACP North County, San Diego, and our counterparts in San Diego and Imperial Beach, and all of the people that are here on this panel. We see that vision. And that's the vision I'd like to see. And that's the vision that I see moving forward in Clean Earth for Kids. And I must say, give another plug for the NAACP youth group who works with Clean Earth for Kids. And these two groups working together of this youth is so inspiring. And it draws you in to make sure you're involved. You want to get involved. And if people here are hearing about these things for the first time, now you know. Please join up with these powerful sisters that went before me, and Clean Earth for Kids, NAACP, all of the things that you've heard today. We need more participation. And without you, we're going to still do the heavy lift. That's what we do. We do this heavy lift, but it will be easier and quicker if we all did it together. Hopefully I didn't run over my time. Thank you.
You're so awesome, and we're so lucky to have you. It's so helpful to me on a daily basis. And I just wanted to say a big shout out to you. And of course, a big shout out to Jay Kloppenstein, our beloved board member. Jay, we couldn't do this without you. Thank you for your love and support and decades and decades of teaching, and all of our wonderful friends at NAACP, our wonderful friends at North County Climate Change Alliance, you know, San Diego 350, and so many more, San Diego Building Electrification Committee, and just all of you guys. You're so amazing. So I know Naeem has a question for you. So Naeem.
Thank you, Suzanne. You are also inspiring and hardworking. What, Miss Sister Maria, what words of encouragement can you give to us?
I think Brother Youssef did it, right? I think Brother Youssef kind of hit it out of the park, right? And so, you know, the only thing that I would add is that, you know, learning how to really collaborate in every sense of the word is so very important in this work, right? Because we all come from different backgrounds. We're not a monolith. I don't care if you can grow up in the same neighborhood on the same street and have completely different experiences. And so we bring these lived experiences into our work. And so when we do that, sometimes we don't get along. Sometimes we don't agree. Sometimes we say go left and the other person thinks we should go right. And, you know, and we're both right. You know, we may need to go left and we may need to also go right. And so I think it's very important to keep the human aspect at the forefront. Yes, we're in this work. Yes, we're, you know, fighting the good fight. But at the end of the day, we're all we have. So it's very important that we center the human part of this work, and we learn how to have deliberative dialogue, and we learn how to continue to work together, even when we disagree and even when we are just diametrically opposed. But guess what? You're still my brother, you're still my sister, and we still have to get this work done because we still have these babies with this disproportionate amount of asthma, and we still have these comorbidity rates that are higher for COVID-19 and other things because of the environmental harms in these communities. And so to really learn how to get along is something that I would always encourage us, because sometimes we get so caught up in all that we have to do that we forget the human aspect of it all, and really to cherish, you know, one another. And so that is my advice or inspiration, is to really learn how to work together, knowing that unity does not mean we all think the same, look the same, dress the same, and act the same. It's just to keep the common goal and the common cause and work toward that together in various different ways. It may look different for everyone.
I could listen to you speak all day. So thank you so much for that. And it is so true. The work we do is so it's so busy and it's so hard. We're working on things that other people don't want to face or think about.
Miss Jackie Clarks, what words of encouragement can you give to us?
Okay, so everything that Brother Youssef said and everything that Sister Maria said, as well, I'd like to add balance in there. You know, when you're doing this work, you have to make time to have fun. You just can't be all serious, even though it's a serious topic. Without a little bit of fun, it makes you a very grumpy person. And you don't have to miss out on everything that's going on, but finding that right balance so that you're enjoying your life and enjoying the work that you're doing to help improve the world for everyone is important. Yes, she said good mental health matters. It really does. when you've been in the trenches for so long, you can feel discouraged, or you can start to feel discouraged. And you always have to go back to your why. Why did I get into this? Why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? And when you get back to your why, it usually will motivate you from within. And sometimes you have to go and talk to other people, be like, you know what? This was a doozy. I've had, I'm overwhelmed. And then let other people encourage you. But don't feel like you have to take on the world upon your shoulder and carry it all by yourself all of the time. That won't work. And your life will go by and you'll have regrets and you'll have resentments. And neither of those will contribute to a healthy, fun, loving, exciting, wonderful life that you all deserve, that we all deserve, in spite of what's going on around us. So creating balance, making sure you're doing self-care, and making sure that when you need help, you're reaching out to get the help that you need. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Miss Sonia Robinson, what words of encouragement can you give for us?
Well, I would have to say that I get a lot of inspiration and encouragement from you all. You guys definitely encourage me. And I would say probably having courage and having the fortitude to stand on what you believe in. And so if you're advocating for something that you morally believe in and you believe it's the right thing, to have courage and willing to, have that, David and Goliath battle and know that you're being pulled for the greater purpose and for the greater good and to benefit, those that will never know you, right? But you believe that the work you're doing is to make that impact because it is for the greater good. And so having courage to stand and to keep fighting, keep progressing forward, regardless if people catch on early on, midway, it doesn't matter. And whenever you're making these progressions on and just really also be willing to celebrate those victories, even if it's a small victory, but giving yourself time to celebrate victories that you get is also encouraging. But I would say definitely have courage and make sure that the work you're doing is directly aligned to your values and your morals so you can stand and fight when you believe it's right.
Mr. Yusuf Miller, what words of encouragement can you give to us?
Thank you, Naeem. I'll keep this brief. We had so much encouragement from my previous speakers, and I'll just say two things: to be bold and to be far-reaching. We're already behind the curve in climate injustice. We're already behind the curve in the air quality, the water quality, land quality. So I advise you to be bold in your steps moving forward and be far-reaching, because we can't get that wrong. We have to do what we have to do, and sometimes it takes bold steps and some bravery. So that I'll keep it there. Thank you so much.
Is there anything else anyone would like to share as of this moment?
Well, I would like to say that Sister Jackie and I and some other community orgs, San Diego Greenville Council, are going to be working on Every Day is Earth Day event that we're having April the 30th of next month. And we're going to be talking about electric and what that means. As Sister Sonia said earlier, these increase and these hikes and everything. And Sister Jackie pointed out while we were in the meeting, like, we want to talk electric, but them bills are high. So people need to understand what that bill means and what it looks like and what are all these charges and why is my bill so high. So we're going to be talking electric. We're going to be introducing the electric induction cooktop. We're going to be introducing some EV vehicles. We're going to be talking about how to transition to electrification. And then we're going to talk about some other things that have to do with electric, some of the cons that people have culturally, because we like gas, that's something that we're used to. That's something that we cook on and, and so a lot of times when you want to adopt, again, you have to see it. That's when most people in the community do things because they're neighbors, they see it and they see the representation. And so we'll be doing that, and hopefully everyone will come out to the park and hop in an EV, get some food, because we're going to be cooking. I'm going to do a cook-off with some chefs who will be demonstrating how to use the induction cooktops. So we're really excited about partnering with that event coming up on April the 30th.
Thank you so much. So Miss Jackie Clark, would you like to share?
I'd like to welcome everyone to attend our Environmental and Climate Justice meeting the first Tuesday of every month. It's coming up next Tuesday, came up really quickly. And what we're looking to do is find your area expertise, where we'll build out the committee where one person is not doing everything, but we're covering areas like, I can't wait to have Suzanne have you on to talk about air pollution and your passion with Clean Air for Kids and all the work that you've been doing, and getting people idea. I have people who are working with composting, who want to learn more about all different types of renewable energies, but expanding on topics that we don't normally talk about, but to bring awareness to a wider range of people so we could build our choir to 500 voices. So when we say we are preaching to the choir, we are building a choir, because that's what it's going to take. It's not just this group of people that normally come to these meetings that normally show up. It's going to take some concerted effort to reach beyond. And so that's what I'm willing to do. I'll go to the bus stops, to the trolley stops, and hand people something and say, do you know how climate change affects you? Do you know about the heat stroke? Do you know about air pollution? And I think one of the kids mentioned earlier about the second and third hand smoke. And being a person who takes public transportation, I'm impacted by that all. The most irritating is the third hand smoke, that the residue, those smoke molecules that sit on people's clothing and in their hair and on their hands. And so they stopped smoking, but now they're on the trolley and all you could smell is that dense smoke smell, and it triggers asthma reaction in me. So I have to carry my inhaler around all the time now, opposed to only needing it really in a rescue situation. But being on public transportation and the effects of COVID now have exasperated, like people are even more susceptible to upper respiratory infections. But first Tuesday every month. Check the website. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Sonia, what would you like to add?
I really don't have too much to add. I want to thank you all for joining us this past Tuesday at that local clean energy forum. So definitely appreciate you all coming out. I also want to share or just mention real quickly that, you know, that electricity bill that you're getting, Sister Maria, is not just your electricity, and that's the problem, is that transmission and distribution charges on there that we have to eliminate. And so going electric and using our natural resources is important. So I just wanted to make sure, because I'm pretty, this is a G rated, but I'm pretty upset on my bill and what I'm paying for distribution and generation distribution charges, right? So I will be probably having some call to actions that we're working on, you know, to make sure that we are able to continue to sustain our natural resources and harnessing the sun for our electricity. So if we are able to do that, and there's many other opportunities and programs that will help to facilitate that. So probably we'll have another event in a month or two. I don't have the date now. So, you know, I guess I'll keep you guys informed as I've done before, but just wanted to thank you all for coming out, for supporting. Definitely appreciate that. And so right now I'm doing some follow-up on what just took place on Tuesday. So we definitely will have some teachable opportunities to reinforce that information and make sure that information is shared and spread, as Brother Yusuf mentioned, as far as a far reach, so other people have the information as well and can continue to share it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And Naeem, would you ask your father if there's anything else he'd like to share, and then he can close us out. Thank you.
Mr. Yusuf Miller, is there anything else you would like to say before we close out?
Yes, thank you, Naeem. I meant to say this in the beginning, and I just want to say it now that we're standing on Kumeyaay land and Luisinho land, depending on where you are in the county. And I just would like to also echo that Luisinho is not their real name. It's Payon Kamwicham, which is their original name. They don't go by that. But after that quick land acknowledgement, this is their land. And we as African Americans are stolen people on a stolen land. And I just wanted to make that clear. So to Clean Earth for Kids and everybody that's listening here, I wanted to make sure that we keep our eye on current events, current news and current policies. Just recently, as John made me aware of, President Biden, he's removing the word race from environmental racism. As he's trying to tackle environmental racism, he wants to move race out of the language. And how can you do such a ridiculous thing? It's just absolutely horrible. And what I would suggest that for President Biden and Vice President Harris is for them to sit down with, I think, our kids, our Anna, our Naeems, and also with our sister Maria and our sister Jackie and our sister Robinson, so they can give him some environmental racism literacy. You know, this how can you attack an issue when you don't name that issue? So I would just like to say, keep your eye on current policies, because these current policies devastate us and sometimes backdoor our progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. We'll be doing a petition and a letter, as you guys have seen, and I don't know if John put it in the chat, but we have actions you can take, and we have letters that we send. We give you the email addresses, so we'll be adding that and writing to President Biden and calling. Often we're on the phone, you know, with not just local and state, but also federally. Yusuf, would you like to say anything else?
Environmental equity is all of our problem, and it's not just the problem of the victim. Corporations and lobbyers, they don't feel the direct impact, and we have to stick together. All of us have to stick together on environmental justice. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. I'll stay
you.
on for a few minutes. Anything? If not, you know, have a great evening.